During the avalanche, my ex-husband protected me tightly under his body. Clearly, he ruined my family, framed my brother, and despised me to the extreme. I gritted my teeth. What are you pretending for? I'll hate you for the rest of my life. The quiet man actually wore a faint smile. Before closing his eyes forever, after he died, I inherited everything he had. And I also learned the truth. It's too late for everything now. I've achieved fame and success, and possess great wealth. I've lost the only person who ever truly loved me. When I opened my eyes again, Huiyan's personal assistant was standing in front of me. He asked me politely, "Madam, is there any problem with the divorce agreement?" Looking at Assistant Chi, who clearly looked much younger now, I looked around in disbelief. Beyond the huge floor-to-ceiling window, the city's night view was brilliant and dazzling. The tranquil river flowed gently around the city. This is the house where Huiyan and I lived for 3 years. Am I in Haicheng? But just a second ago, I was still in the temple in Dadu. I raised my hand. My skin was smooth and delicate, with faintly visible veins. A hand belonging to a young woman. The ring finger was empty. After Huiyan died, I wore the wedding ring alone for 10 years. Madam, Assistant Shi reminded her, a divorce agreement. I came back to my senses. Was it Huiyan who sent you here? Assistant Shi is very professional. He remained silent for a moment before continuing. Yes, Mr. Ho said to proceed as you suggest. If it weren't for the fact that in his past life, he worked for me for 10 years after Huiyan died, I really wouldn't have noticed his subtle dissatisfaction. I don't blame him. Who could remain unmoved by Huiyan's love, except for me, who am blind and deaf to reality? I took the agreement, looking at Huiyan's name above and the long list of assets. I finally felt a sense of having been reborn. Hot liquid kept gushing from her eyes, dripping onto the divorce agreement. I couldn't stop shaking. After a long while, I asked, "Is Huiyan still alive? Where is he?" Assistant Chi remained silent for a few seconds before speaking vaguely. Mr. Hua is busy. I laughed again. I roughly wiped my face and said to Assistant Sit, "I have an objection." I held a corner of the document over the flame of the candle in the aromatherapy diffuser. The cold, square-shaped characters twisted and distorted, turning into charcoal black. The flame touched the back of my hand. It hurts a lot. It's not a dream. Assistant Chi looked surprised. I let go of his hand as he stood up and said calmly, "Huiyan and I are divorced. Why did he call you here?" "I want to see him." Assistant Chi lowered his head. The divorce agreement on the ground had turned into a pile of ashes. He had followed Huiyan for many years. Like Huiyan, he was quiet and reserved, never showing his emotions openly, so he didn't point it out. This divorce was clearly something I insisted on. Assistant Chi bowed slightly to me. "Yes, ma'am." He simply turned around and left. I sat by the table for a long time, slowly looking around. Everywhere, there are traces of Huiyan, his usual water bottle, the financial magazine he was reading halfway through, and the shirts brought to him by the butler. More than a decade later, I sent people to take good care of it, trying to preserve its original appearance. But the master will never return, so everything inevitably gets eroded by time. I insist on getting divorced from Huiyan. It's because my stepbrother Song Qingqiao presented evidence that Huiyan used to frame the Jiang family. Song Qingqiao leaned against the hospital bed, coughing lightly a few times. Her lips were pale. "Sis, back when something bad happened to our family, it was all Huiyan's doing." I looked at the photos of Huiyan and his competitors, and my vision went black several times. When Huiyan married me, the Jiang family was in a state of turmoil. Several major projects of the company have encountered problems one after another. After my father's years of infidelity were exposed, the Jiang family's reputation plummeted to rock bottom. My father was suddenly hospitalized due to a serious illness. My mother passed away early. All that was left at home were I, who had just started working at the company, and my stepbrother Song Qingqiao, who was not in good health. Relatives from distant branches all have ulterior motives. Former friends and business partners avoid them at all costs. Everyone was like vultures smelling blood, waiting for the Jiang family to fall apart. Just at that moment, as the chairman of Hengwo Technology and a rising star in Haicheng's tech industry, Hui Yan took the initiative to approach them. He expressed his willingness to offer help and work together. The condition is that I marry him. Hui Yan's dark eyes stared at me. Miss Jiang, you have no other choice. On his deathbed, my father threatened me with his will. He held on until I got married, and only then did he close his eyes. Everything has an explanation. Hui Yan married me just to get revenge. Hui Yan came from a humble background. I heard that when my father was starting his company, some trivial arguments really caused him a lot of trouble. A poor boy who started from scratch endured humiliation and hardship. After bringing down the Jiang family, who looked down on him, he married the Jiang family's only daughter. That night, I flew abroad immediately. Hui Yan's eyes, which had been slightly glowing, quickly dimmed when he saw the evidence I handed him. He casually flipped through the documents and asked just one question. Given to you by Song Qingqiao. He didn't defend himself, just stared at me quietly. I hate his cold demeanor to the core. You can never guess what he's thinking. He has always disliked Song Qingqiao. People who are so silent like this all became like that after arguing with Song Qingqiao a few times. During our 3 years of marriage, I occasionally got close to Hui Yan. He would become so stiff that he didn't know what to do with his hands and feet, and his handsome face would be covered in gloom. Ultimately, Hui Yan despised everything related to the Jiang family. I'm nothing more than a trophy. Even those silly thoughts I had about him when we got married are so ridiculous now. The more I thought about it, the more humiliating it seemed to me. In the end, I said things I shouldn't have said. I've always hated you, Hui Yan. Every single second I spent with you was disgusting to me. Go to hell. Hui Yan remained expressionless, with only his thin lips turning slightly pale. He whispered, "Sorry." I slammed the door and left. Soon, I received the divorce agreement sent by Assistant Qi, just as I had hoped. Actually, if I took the time to investigate this properly, I'd find that it's full of flaws. The evidence comes solely from Song Qingqiao. I'll believe 3 parts of it for now. Hui Yan has never been a narrow-minded person. After the marriage, the Jiang family received a substantial amount of capital as promised. I tried to put order back in the Jiang family. His father's mind was drained by lust, alcohol, and greed. When I took over, Jiang's company was in complete chaos. There was constant infighting, rigid management practices, and frequent strategic blunders. I'm restricted in everything I do. At first, because my wrists were too inexperienced, I caused quite a few problems. But somehow, things always take a turn for the better. Either I get hold of those directors' weaknesses, or the problems will resolve themselves naturally. I thought it was just good luck on my part. It wasn't until Hui Yan died that Assistant Qi told me, there's no such thing as divine favor. Behind all this is Hui Yan's doing. He never mentions these things, even in his diary. These events are mentioned only in a few brief lines. Hui Yan, on the contrary, would obsessively describe my hair in the sunset light, and the fact that I ate 2 extra bites of dessert the day they argued. In his diary, there were chaotic scribbles, along with one sentence that carried deep meaning. She hates me. I felt a pang in my heart upon thinking of those few water spots spreading across those tangled lines. I hesitated at the door of the bedroom for a long time. Just stepped through the door. Warm lighting, thick curtains, and a decor style that suits my taste in every detail. After Hui Yan died, I rarely returned to the house in Haicheng. We've lived here together for 3 years. There are so many memories here. Sometimes, when I wake up, for a brief moment, I can feel the warmth of his body as he holds me in his arms. The gap between half-asleep states and reality is too painful. I'd rather stay in strange hotels all over the world. I leaned against the bed, sat on the fluffy carpet, and picked up my phone. After searching for a long time, I finally found Hui Yan on the blacklist. I quickly pulled him out and set him as a pinned post. After taking several deep breaths to calm myself down, I sent him a message with trembling hands. Honey, I want to see you. On the green dialog box. Huiyan's name quickly changed. The other party is typing. I opened my eyes wide. My vision blurred repeatedly. For a full decade. There was no response to this dialog box at all. I wiped the tears from my phone screen and stared at it eagerly for a long time. It always shows the other party is typing. What's going on? I scrolled through the chat history. Over the past 3 years, I've had very little conversation with Huiyan. When they first got married, Huiyan would tell me about all his plans and schedules. After a few days, I grew impatient and said, "There's no need to send me this. I'm not your assistant." After a long while, Huiyan replied, "Okay." I don't use any title for him. At most, I refer to him by his full name, Huiyan. In his past life, after Huiyan passed away, muttering to myself in response to this dialog box has become my habit. Speaking of which, this seems like the living Huiyan. Is this the first time he's called me husband? Don't think my account has been hacked, do you? I wiped my face with the back of my hand, and it hurt so much I let out a cry. On a whim, I rummaged through everything and found the wedding ring, put it on, brought it close to the burn on my right hand, and took a photo. Finally, I added a filter to make those burn marks look even more terrifying. I sent over the photos and said pitifully, "I'm hurt. It hurts a lot." Waited another long while. This time, it's even gone from the input field. I put down my phone, trying to suppress the sense of loss in my heart. There's no need to rush. If Huiyan wants to avoid me, there's no way I'll be able to see him. After the divorce, he really never showed up again. Not until a few years later, I encountered an avalanche during my vacation. The entire cabin was buried under the snow. The first person to come and save me was none other than this former husband of mine, with whom I had a feud. I can't wait to say I hate him. I don't know if the hard snow from the second avalanche has shattered his bones and internal organs. He stopped breathing in front of me. From then on, in this vast world, the only traces of Huiyan that remained were his cold ashes and that diary, which I knew by heart. I had difficulty breathing. I took the wedding photo frame from the nightstand and pressed Huiyan's side of the frame against my chest. The doorbell rang. I didn't have time to put on my shoes, so I rushed to open the door. Stumbling along the way, expectations were not met. He's the Hu family's personal doctor. Dr. Chin nodded at me respectfully. "Madam, Mr. Hu just said that you were injured. Let me take care of it for you." I felt a little ashamed, with those minor injuries. If Dr. Chin had arrived any later, they would have probably already healed by now. There's also a bit of joy. Huiyan still cares about me, right? After sending Dr. Chin away, I messaged my assistant and asked her to find out where Huiyan was. He's been abroad for the past few months. The wooden scent from the pillow gradually faded away. I ran to the wardrobe, took out many of Huiyan's clothes, piled them into a little nest, and buried myself inside. Let the longing overwhelm me. After Huiyan died, all his assets were left to me. I was surprised to learn this. Long before we got married, he had already made a will. Later, we got divorced. We didn't see each other for several years. And we never changed our names either. I was full of doubts until, while organizing his belongings, I found that diary. Only then did I realize how intense the love was that lay hidden beneath this person's silent, cold exterior. I buried my head in Huiyan's shirt, breathing faintly, until dawn. The phone in my hand suddenly rang. I started and quickly picked up the phone. From the other end of the phone came Song Qingxiao's weak voice. "Sis. I feel so bad." Haven't heard his voice in a long time. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. This time, I won't let Huiyan get his hands dirty again. I'll deal with him myself. I gritted my teeth and said in my usual tone, "I'll be there in a moment." By the time I arrived at the hospital, it was just beginning to dawn. Song Qingqiao lay on the hospital bed, her face pale and covered in tiny beads of sweat on her forehead. When he saw me enter, he called out weakly, "Sis." He fell asleep again. His cold hand clutched my wrist tightly. Like a snake, I sat by the bed and watched him. Song Qingqiao inherited her mother's beautiful appearance. Peach blossom eyes, skin as fair as jade, a face that's exquisitely delicate. No wonder Huiyan thought that I liked Song Qingqiao. Jiang Jiaming has only me as his child, at least on the surface. Song Fu saved my father's life after Song Qingqiao's mother jumped to her death. My father took Song Fu into the Jiang family. My father couldn't return home very often throughout the year. We grew up together in that huge villa. After my father died, Song Qingqiao was my only relative. He's not in good health, and I'm very worried. One of the conditions for my marriage to Huiyan is that he must find Song Qingqiao the world's best medical team. Even on my and Huiyan's wedding night, Song Qingqiao got drunk and ended up in the ICU. I left Huiyan behind and rushed to the hospital, staying with him all night. After divorcing in her previous life, Song Qingqiao was soon arrested and imprisoned abroad on charges of corporate bribery. I made multiple trips back and forth, trying to clear his name, but Huiyan invested massive resources to ensure that Song Qingqiao couldn't get out. I hate Huiyan to the core. During the divorce, I traded all the stock he gave me to his affiliated company. It's ridiculous that I was so suspicious in my past life. The only one I trust is this frail younger brother of mine. He's the one who killed my father and betrayed me. Song Qingqiao owns a yacht in the open sea, with a secret room built on it. If it weren't for Huiyan, given how much I trust Song Qingqiao, I doubt I'd even know how I died. Song Qingqiao frowned, her long eyelashes trembling restlessly as she slept unpeacefully. I slowly moved my hand to his neck, the slender, fragile neck, with the carotid artery pulsing rhythmically. Song Qingqiao's breathing was ragged. He didn't know what kind of dream he'd had, but he cried out loudly, "Sis, he's awake." I gently touched his cheek and said soothingly, "Sis is here." Song Qingqiao gave me a weak smile. He gently rubbed his hand against mine, then said sadly, "Sis, I dreamed that you and brother Huiyan went abroad and left me behind. I think of all those disgusting toys on his ship, and I really want to strangle him right now. But no evidence has been found yet." With difficulty suppressing the nausea, she said softly, "How could that be? You're the most important person to me." Song Qingqiao threw herself into my arms. His gaze briefly drifted toward the door. Outside the half-open door, a tall, handsome man stood quietly, watching the two people hugging intimately inside the hospital room. Assistant Chi said nervously, "Mr. Hua, would you like me to inform the madam?" The man seemed completely unaware, had been disappointed so many times. He clearly knew that Jiang Zhaoxue only had Song Qingqiao in her heart. Why do I still hold on to illusions? When she saw the words husband, Huiyan thought she was dreaming. Still haven't come out of my daze. He's already on the flight back to his home country. It seems now that probably she sent it by mistake. Stupid. But with Jiang Zhaoxue, he'd done far more than just this foolish act. Jiang Zhaoxue made it very clear. She hated him deeply. Huiyan closed his eyes and opened them again. Once again, everything is calm. He whispered, "Let's go." This time, he would make sure to completely disappear from her world. Huiyan turned around and walked toward the end of the corridor. Caught off guard, he was hugged by Song Qingqiao. The faint scent of medicine emanated from her body. I feel nauseous and like vomiting. The phone rang. I pretended to answer a phone call and pushed him out the door. At the end of the hallway, the corner of a black garment flashed by. My heart sank inexplicably. On the other end of the phone, the assistant said, "President Jiang, Mr. Hua returned to the country last night. He should have landed by now." I didn't have time to think. I instinctively chased after them. I ran very fast. My heart was pounding nonstop, almost as if it might burst out of my chest. Before the man got into the elevator, I finally caught up with him. The man turned around in surprise. an ordinary face. It's not Huiyan. I didn't give up. I searched every floor of the building, and even went through the small garden. Nothing was gained. I don't know why. But I'm feeling more and more anxious. I stood under the magnolia tree for a long time. Dark clouds rolled across the sky, with distant thunder rumbling. It's raining. Bean-sized raindrops pierced through the gaps in the leaves and hit me. I looked up at the sky. Torn apart by branches and leaves, the black umbrella cover blocked my view. A voice that seemed both familiar and strange said, "Don't get caught in the rain. You'll catch a cold." For a moment, the sounds of wind and rain became distant and blurred. All that remained in the ears was a faint buzzing. My limbs are numb, and my fingertips are cold. I have no idea how long I stood there. Frozen in place, the black umbrella remained firmly over me the entire time. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and the rain poured down relentlessly. Everything was left outside the umbrella. I turned my head slowly. The man was dressed in black, with sharp features and a cold expression, as though covered in a thin layer of frost. He lowered his long, raven-like eyelashes, his gaze calm and indifferent as he looked at me. Young Huiyan, living Huiyan, 10 years of life and death, all lost in darkness. Wishes made before countless temples and gods have come true. I really saw him again. My chest hurts from the impact of the blood. When I tried to speak, a sweet, fishy taste rushed up in my throat. Huiyan didn't urge him to hurry. He kept a proper distance from me, with most of the umbrella covering me. Huiyan's back must be completely soaked. He's always like this. Never says what he's done. I rushed into his arms, hugged him tightly, buried my face against Huiyan's broad and strong chest, and burst into tears. Huiyan stumbled. The knuckles of his hand, gripping the umbrella handle, turned white. The other hand was raised and lowered several times, before gently patting my back. With a hoarse voice, it asked, "What's wrong?" I cried until I felt dizzy. The mind is filled with unreasonable resentment. Don't you love me? Didn't you like me since we were little? Why won't you tell me anything? Why die right in front of me? I've been messaging him for 10 years. Why hasn't he replied to a single message? After a while, I calmed down. Huiyan's body was completely stiff, just like every time I get too close to him. But in his arms, I heard Huiyan's rapid heartbeat for the first time. I took the initiative to hold his hand and place it on my waist, standing on tiptoes. I wrapped my arms around his neck. "I miss you so much." A somewhat dazed expression appeared on Huiyan's stern face. His palm rested on my waist, and the warmth spread through my clothes, without using any force. They just held me up weakly. I leaned in to kiss him, but Huiyan tilted his head back, avoiding the kiss. Huiyan remained silent for a long time before speaking. "Jiang Zhaoxue, you don't have to do this. Song Qingxiao's medical team will continue to oversee her treatment. If you have any requests regarding the divorce agreement, please tell Assistant Ji." Huiyan paused for a moment, then said lightly, "Either one is fine. I know he's serious. Anything you want is fine. I could take his life as well." I couldn't breathe. The words divorce stabbed me again. I said urgently, "I don't want a divorce." Huiyan's dark, gloomy eyes stared at me indistinctly. I wanted to kiss him, but he avoided me, between extreme sorrow and joy. I have no rationality left. He kept pestering and nagging. "Why do you want me to contact Assistant Ji? Is he my husband? Or are you my husband?" The hand resting on my waist suddenly tightened its grip. Huiyan's gaze grew even darker. He lowered his head and kissed me. Huiyan's thin lips carried a slight hint of coolness, yet his movements were completely unrestrained. At first, I barely responded at all. Soon, she was so breathless from his kisses that she had no strength left. She could only lie there, forced to endure it while resting in his arms. In Huiyan's cold black eyes, there were emotions that I couldn't understand. He gently bit the tip of my tongue, then stepped back slightly, reminding me, "Breathe." Crying and kissing all over again. My brain was severely deprived of oxygen. All I could do was stare blankly at his pale lips. Huyen curled his lips slightly. Just as he was about to lower his head, his expression froze, and the desire in his eyes vanished instantly. A voice came from behind me. "Sis." I instinctively turned around. Song Qingqiao stood behind me. He was wearing a hospital gown. His face was pale, and the needle holes in his hands were still bleeding. I snapped out of it and rushed to check on Huyen. Huyen took his hand away from my waist. His thin lips were slightly pressed together, once again giving off that aloof, distantly polite demeanor. I grabbed the hem of his clothes and said urgently, "That's not true." But I couldn't explain it in front of Song Qingqiao. Huyen closed his eyes and laughed self-mockingly. His tone was calm yet weary. "Miss Jiang, believe it or not, I too have feelings. We don't need to meet anymore." Broken. Huyen has never said anything so serious to me before. It's my own fault. I brought this upon myself. After I married Huyen, whenever Song Qingqiao went to the hospital, no matter what she was doing there, I would immediately rush over. As a result, I've missed appointments several times, including our wedding anniversary. I promised to spend it with him. Huyen was very happy. In his diary, he detailed his plans, the gifts he prepared, and even the recipes he learned specifically for this occasion. Then, he waited until midnight in front of a table full of cold food. On that day, Huyen showed emotions for the first time in a long time, ignoring the slight sense of guilt in my heart. I asked him impatiently, "We're in a business partnership, not in a romantic relationship. What's there to celebrate about an anniversary anyway? For whom are we pretending?" I didn't dare to look closely at Huyen's expression. Huyen handed me the umbrella and turned to leave. I tried to chase after them, but a muffled sound came from behind me. Song Qingqiao fell straight to the ground. In the blink of an eye, Huyen's car had already driven away. Watching the departing Maybach go away, I take a deep breath. Huyen was angry. It's all my fault. Having lived 2 lives, I still act on impulse. Said I'd pursue someone, and this is what happened. I glanced at Song Qingqiao on the floor with a headache and called for a nurse. At this time in my past life, most of my energy is still being spent on Jiang's complicated internal struggles. I've been in charge of the Jiang family and Hengwo for 10 years. Now, I can handle these matters with ease. I assessed the current situation and sent people to keep an eye on Song Qingqiao. Huyen never went home at all. He doesn't even reply to my messages. I decided to go find him in person, standing at the company reception with a bouquet of red roses in my hands. I took a deep breath. The young girl at the front desk immediately stood up when she saw me. "Madam, please take the elevator on this side." I was slightly taken aback and asked him, "Do you know me?" The little girl nodded. "You're part of our onboarding training. President Hu specifically said that as long as you come to Hengwo, you should be taken to his office." I've never been here once. I feel a mix of emotions inside me. Huyen is in a meeting. I found an empty vase to put the flowers in, then sat down in his seat with ease. I'm quite familiar with Hengwo. After Huyen died, I didn't sell Hengwo as the outside world expected. On the contrary, after I took over, I handled almost everything myself. For the next 10 years, this office was the place I spent the most time in. I skillfully pulled open the drawer. At this moment, Huyen entered the room. When he saw me, his movements stopped for a moment. Fearing he might misunderstand, I quickly raised my pen to prove my innocence. "I'm just looking for a pen. I wanted to write you a little note." Seeing that his gaze shifted to the roses, he tried to take credit again. I picked each one out individually. "Do you like them?" Huyen stared at me with a blank expression. I'm wondering to myself, could it be that the soil is too red? I should have bought the white one if I had known. But putting white roses on Huyen's grave too many times is considered inauspicious. After a long silence, Huyen finally spoke. "Jiang Zhaoxue, what are you doing?" This is an easy question to answer. I got up and went around to his side, closed the door behind me. I reached out and hugged Huyen's waist. The muscles in his arms became completely stiff. Hui Yan looked down at me. His jaw was tense, and his handsome face was as cold as ice. Only eyes like obsidian, faintly revealing a sense of helplessness. I pressed my ear to his chest, listened to his heartbeat, and said contentedly, "I'm chasing after you." "Honey." Hui Yan remained silent for a long time. I raised my face to look at him. His expression was quite terrifying, cold, sharp, and filled with a chilling aura. But I wasn't scared by him. Instead, I noticed a slight blush on Hui Yan's ears. I always thought he disliked my approaching him. Actually, it's very likely that Hui Yan simply doesn't know how to react. I mustered the courage to brush against him. Some very obvious changes immediately occurred. Hui Yan placed his hand on my shoulder, pushing me a little away to prevent me from continuing to feel it. He said coldly, "I have a meeting later." He mercilessly ordered everyone to leave. Hui Yan's eyes couldn't help but look at the roses again. My heart felt both sour and tender, like eating a candy with a sour core. How come I didn't realize it sooner in my past life? It's obvious enough. I let go of Hui Yan, ran back to the table, wrote a note for him, and placed it on the flower. "Can you go on a date with me tonight?" Also drew a little heart. Hui Yan saw it. His Adam's apple moved slightly. But in the end, he simply said, "It'll be very late." I reached out and touched the back of his hand. "It's okay. I'll wait for you at home." Seeing that he didn't pull his hand back, she took the opportunity to grasp his little finger as well. "If you don't like the flowers, just throw them away. It's okay. From now on, I'll give you something different every day." Hui Yan's eyelashes trembled as she instinctively repeated, "Every day." I said seriously, "Every day. In my past life. In front of the cold tombstone. White roses dipped in dew were replaced every day. I'll never know. Does Hui Yan like receiving flowers? And what kind of flowers does she prefer? So this time, I want to send him flowers from all over the world." I canceled all my plans for the afternoon and went straight to the kitchen. Cook the dishes that Hui Yan wrote about in his diary. But I've barely ever set foot in the kitchen since I was born. Pot after pot of charcoal burned before a table of food that could barely be considered presentable was finally prepared. I took a satisfied photo and sent it to Hui Yan. "I'll be waiting for you, honey." Also sent a meme of a kitten wagging its tail. The dialogue box showed the other person is typing for 10 minutes. Hui Yan replied, "Okay." From evening until late at night. However, Hui Yan never returned. Until 2 a.m. Hui Yan sent another message. "Don't wait for me." I stared at the dialogue box, thinking bitterly. So, that's how he felt at that time. It wasn't until late at night that Hui Yan returned. He changed his clothes. His hair was a bit messy. Seeing that I was still sitting at the dining table, he froze for a moment. "Didn't I say not to wait for me? The food was heated once. So it's a bit cold now." Hui Yan sat down and remained silent for a long time. He's cooked all these dishes before. Hui Yan is really good at cooking. I'm definitely not as skilled as him. But he said nothing. Hui Yan ate slowly, taking small bites. It's hard to tell from his expression whether he likes it or not. I decided not to be foolish and instead took out a delicate box, handing it over as if presenting a treasure. "The canary cufflinks I took pictures of for you. I've wanted to give them to you for a while now. Actually, last time, I bought a birthday gift for Hui Yan, but we started arguing, until Hui Yan was cremated. This cufflink wasn't given away." Hui Yan opened the box and silently stared at the sparkling yellow diamond inside. He raised his head and looked at me through the flickering candlelight. I laughed at him for a while, just realized something wasn't right. In Hui Yan's eyes, there was undisguised pain. He took a deep breath, his voice trembling slightly. "Jiang Zhaoxue, what do you really want?" The phone suddenly rang. Song Qingqiao had a drug allergy and fell into a coma. The hospital asked me to go there. After hanging up the phone, Hui Yan stood up and picked up his coat. He reverted to his indifferent and aloof demeanor. He said, "Miss Jiang, Thank you for your gift. Seeing him turn to leave, I hurriedly called out, I'm not going to the hospital. Hui Yan. I know you didn't do anything to the Jiang family, and I never liked Song Qingxiao in the first place. Hui Yan turned his head, his eyes slightly widening. I pulled him to sit on the sofa and tried to organize my thoughts. I grew up with Song Qingxiao. How could I possibly like him? I truly treat him like my own brother. After my father died, he was all I had left. Thinking of this, I can't help but feel down, so I never doubted him at all. Who would have thought that the little boy who kept calling out sis behind me would soon want to take my life? I blame Hui Yan. Why don't you explain? Hui Yan remained silent for a moment before speaking. You believe him, not me. So later on, he preferred to use his own methods to eliminate the biggest threat in my life. Even if the price is that I hate him. My eyes burned with tears. So I simply sat down on his lap. Hui Yan let out a muffled grunt. I continued. I really just want you. To see you. To kiss you. Give me a chance to chase after you. Let me prove myself. Okay. Hui Yan lowered his eyelids, hiding the emotions surging in his eyes. He grabbed my wrist. His voice hoarse. Jiang Zhaoxue. Don't toy with me. You hate me. And maybe you're right. I do have some problems. You'd better leave while I'm still willing to let you go. Hui Yan said calmly. Otherwise, we'll be together forever. Whether you like it or not. His tone was completely calm and unemotional. I know he's serious. After we got divorced, Hui Yan would only keep a diary in his dreams when he thought of me. Thinking of his wild, almost pathological fantasies later on, I couldn't help but feel a warmth in my lower abdomen. Hui Yan looked down at me. His eyes so dark they seemed to be able to suck people in. He tried to find signs of disgust and pretense on my face. I looked him straight in the eyes without any hesitation. If you don't try, how will you know whether I like it or not? Hui Yan's eyelashes trembled slightly as she first turned away her gaze. He asked me, almost to himself, why? This issue is quite complicated to explain. I avoided answering, gave his face a few random kisses, and declared, so you promise to let me pursue you? Hui Yan gave a slight nod. Don't go back on your word. Don't ignore me, and don't make it impossible for me to find you again. His body was like iron. Wherever I touched him, his muscles became tense. I paused for a moment and asked him, Hui Yan, I have a question. I always thought you hated me, but when I get close to you, aren't you actually shy? As soon as the words were spoken, I could see Hui Yan's ears turning red. His expression became even more stern. After a moment of silence, he said with difficulty, No. I've never disliked you at all. The case has been solved. President Hua, who's usually so decisive in making cuts, actually gets so nervous that he doesn't even know where to put his hands. I thought he was so cute that I couldn't resist getting closer to kiss him. Hui Yan bit his lower lip. He snapped. Don't laugh. This person is like a puppy so fond of biting people. I wasn't going to back down and bit his lower lip. As our lips and teeth intertwined, my hand accidentally touched Hui Yan's abs. Hui Yan trembled violently. I noticed something unusual. Hui Yan couldn't stop me in time, so he could only watch as I unbuttoned his shirt. His entire abdomen was covered with gauze, and blood was seeping through on the outside. My breath hitched as I stared at his lower abdomen. Through gritted teeth, I managed to say, What's going on? Hui Yan said nonchalantly. Minor car accident. The driver was experienced and managed to avoid it. I snapped angrily. With these injuries, the doctor wants you to go home. What kind of doctor is that? He doesn't even want to do his job. Hui Yan watched me angrily call Dr. Chin on the phone and nervously pursed his lips. It's just a minor skin injury. Nothing serious. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the gift box on the table, and then I understood why he insisted on going home. For a moment, my throat felt choked up. Dr. Chin arrived very quickly. Hui Yan had large bruises and scratches on his lower abdomen. Fortunately, the wounds weren't very deep. Dr. Chin gave me a few instructions, and I wrote them all down. The house fell silent for a moment. That's not quite right. The timing of Huiyan's car accident is really coincidental. Song Qingqiao has been in the hospital for the past few days. He didn't make any moves. Those who came to curry favor with him under the pretext of visiting him were endless. In Haicheng, it's well known that I value this younger brother the most. After being reborn, I noticed that many things had changed slightly. I'm not sure if it's the butterfly effect. In my past life, I already knew that Song Qingqiao had some improper relationships with several of her uncles. Originally, I planned to wait and see what happened, and take action only after getting evidence of illegal profit transfers. Better not dwell on things that might happen in the future. Can't wait any longer. I thought it over carefully for a long time. When I looked up, I noticed that Huiyan's lips were slightly curved upwards, and his eyes looked at me gently. He said, "You care about me." I had a questioning expression on my face. This isn't nonsense. Huiyan's tone was gentle, as if he were asking me, yet also as if he were asking himself. He said, "Is this a dream?" My heart ached, so I simply pulled him towards me and bit his face. Huiyan mechanically touched the very obvious tooth marks. I proudly nodded at him. Let your subordinate's strange looks tell you whether it's a dream or not. Unfortunately, Huiyan was injured, so I left him at home. Can't go to work with tooth marks and embarrass myself. I began to reorganize the Jiang family. I inherited the Jiang family at the age of 23, after Huiyan's death. He continued to lead Hengwo technology for another 10 years. I've seen every kind of trick in the book, long since not the naive and immature person I was at this time in my past life. At the same time, everyone noticed the change in my attitude towards Song Qingqiao. Under Zhang's top-level reshuffle, Song Qingqiao's influence was completely eradicated. He was completely excluded from the core decision-making circle. Song Qingqiao asked to see me several times. I always pretended to be busy. I'm really busy. Busy chasing Huiyan. It's rare that I get home early today. There was the sound of water coming from the bathroom. Huiyan is taking a bath. He never lets me help him. Every time, he washes his clothes while I'm at the office. My eyes lit up. I quickly placed the blue rose aside and went into the bathroom with my towel. Huiyan stood under the shower head, letting out a soft sigh. I can do it myself. What nonsense. I said seriously. What if the wound gets infected? Huiyan still wants to refuse. I moved closer to him and successfully got his clothes wet. Oh no. It's wet now. I guess we'll have to wash it together. Huiyan smiled helplessly. Okay. Huiyan's body is like a work of art. Beautifully smooth shoulder and neck lines. Perfectly shaped pectoral muscles. Droplets clung to the firm pectoral muscles before rolling down. For some reason, I feel thirsty just by looking at it. When turning to wipe the back, I was stunned. All the romantic thoughts vanished in an instant. Above the latissimus dorsi muscle, there were numerous old injuries crisscrossing the area. After Huiyan died, I investigated him. There aren't many records. Only learned that the mother passed away early, and the father was an alcoholic. I know he had a difficult childhood, but this was the first time that the suffering he had endured was presented to me in such a tangible manner. No wonder he doesn't like people getting too close to him. I held the towel in my hands, hesitating to let it go, as if separated by thin air. Did Huiyan use this place to block the avalanche for me? How much pain he must be in. Huiyan's hands clenched involuntarily. He whispered, "I scared you. I'm sorry." Huiyan knew his appearance was disgusting. She shouldn't see it. This month, he had heard about the Jiang family's troubles. Jiang Zhaoxue acted with precision and efficiency, unrelenting towards Song Qingqiao. Every day when she came home, she would smile at him and call him husband. Jiang Zhaoxue really sent him flowers every day. All kinds of roses, in various colors, bloomed in profusion, looking absolutely beautiful. She took care of him in a somewhat awkward way, approaching him voluntarily and staying close to him. Hui Yen would often quietly watch her sleeping face until dawn broke. He just couldn't believe it. This isn't a dream. Jiang Zhaoxue is really too good to him. It was so unbearable that he could no longer stand Jiang Zhaoxue's disgust. Ed gaze. Hui Yen didn't dare to look back. He closed his eyes. You go ahead. I'll be fine by myself. In the middle of speaking, he lost his voice. Soft lips touched his ugly, old scars. As the kiss fell, her hot tears followed. When I was being kissed against the bathroom wall, I wasn't quite sure what was happening. Hui Yen was unusually anxious. Unlike his usual self, his kisses were overwhelming. I couldn't breathe. My body, pressed against the wall, went weak, and I started to slide down. Even my tears were kissed away by him. Hui Yen carried me into the bedroom. The bath towel hung loosely around his waist. His firm body pressed against mine. It's very oppressive. Between quick kisses, Hui Yen whispered to me, "Is that okay?" Still asking after all this. I nodded. Feeling dizzy, Hui Yan's kisses moved downward. When his lips touched my lower abdomen, I suddenly came to my senses. Wait. Hui Yen raised his eyes. From this angle, he's unbearably handsome. I was speechless for a few seconds before I could say anything. Your wound. Hui Yen fell silent for a moment. He took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "Sorry." He stood up. Seeing that he might misunderstand, I quickly grabbed his wrist. It's not a refusal. I mean, what if I were up there instead? Before I could finish speaking, I already regretted it. Hui Yan's eyes suddenly turned red. He let out a low sigh, then lifted me from the bed onto his lap with one hand. He repeated again, "Sorry," until the first rays of dawn appeared. Hui Yen continued to soothe me with his hoarse, deep voice. I finally understood the meaning of the second apology. The next day, when I finally managed to open my eyes, it was already dark outside, dizzy and lightheaded. I don't even have the strength to lift my fingers. Hui Yen helped me lean against his chest, then pressed his fingertips against my lips. Open your mouth. I did as I was told. Without understanding why, warm water flowed over his thin lips. It wasn't until I could hardly breathe that Hui Yen finally showed some mercy and let me go. I asked weakly, "Does this count as having caught up to them?" After working all night despite being injured. Hui Yen seemed full of energy. Hearing this, he laughed. Okay. The phone lit up. The investigation into Song Qingqiao has yielded results. The last piece of worry has finally gone away. I let out a sigh of relief. Sullenly, he said, "You have no idea how much I miss you." Hui Yan's gaze was complicated, as if he was lost in thought. After a moment, he managed to hide the emotions in his eyes and bent down to kiss my earlobe. When I found Song Qingqiao, he was leaning against the railing on the hospital rooftop. The wind is very strong. Song Qingqiao was watching the birds flying in the sky. When he saw me, the corners of his mouth curled slightly. He said, "Sister, you've come." Against the backdrop of the sunset, Song Qingqiao's face appeared especially pale and delicate, possessing a beauty that seemed on the verge of breaking apart. Seeing that I stopped just a few steps away from him, Song Qingqiao twitched the corners of her mouth. "Why are you being so wary of me? After all, it's been a long time since we last saw each other." Looking back, it's been 10 years already. Seeing the sudden change on my face, Song Qingqiao's expression relaxed, and she started to laugh to herself. He too was reborn. I gritted my teeth and said, "Song Qingqiao, the Jiang family has been good to you. I treat you as my own brother. Why do you have to betray me in both lifetimes?" Betray the Jiang family. Song Qingqiao began to cough violently. A trace of blood stained the corner of his mouth, and his eyes were as cold as inorganic matter. He's indeed been very kind to me. "Sis, what do you think caused Mom's death?" I was taken aback. Song Qingqiao sneered. "Do you really believe those nonsense claims about excessive longing? It's true that my father died trying to save your father. But the moment Jiang Qingdong came to thank us, his eyes were fixed on my mom. That bastard. My mother was still pregnant with me when he drugged her. He coughed twice more, his voice weak and feeble. My mom was threatened by him and forced to be his lover for several years. Later, she cried all night long, looking dazed. She said that my dad called her shameless. One night, she jumped from the 20th floor. Song Qingxiao's face showed deep hatred. You say. The Jiang family has been so kind to me. Shouldn't I repay them in kind? Just a little bit of neurotoxin. Jiang Qingdong died. Too easily. I can't say a single word. In my past life, after learning the truth, I tried to meet Song Qingxiao several times, but he refused to allow any visits. Song Qingxiao closed her eyes and took a deep breath. He said, Jiang Zhaoxue, I never wanted to be your brother. He opened his eyes, his emotions calming slightly. You clearly said that I'm the most important to you, and that you'd always be by my side. But what have you actually done, sister? The Jiang family should have been destroyed back then, but who would have thought that Hui Yan would show up? The way he looks at you. It's disgusting. Song Qingxiao laughed. Sis, did you see the boat I prepared for you? He sighed wearily. I originally planned to live there with my sister for the rest of our lives, as if only you and I existed in the world. After we've done it enough times, maybe I'll be able to forget that you're Jiang Qingdong's daughter. I gritted my teeth and said, what's the difference between you and him if you act like this? Song Qingxiao shrugged and smiled. The price of staring into the abyss. The sun was setting in the west, and the wind howled through the air. I said slowly, Song Qingxiao, actually, Jiang Qingdong wasn't going to live much longer anyway. He has tertiary syphilis. You probably don't know much about the Jiang family's rise to wealth. Jiang Qingdong married my mother because of his good looks, and then took her surname. When Jiangshi was completely in his hands, Jiang Qingdong sent her to a sanatorium. I've never been your enemy. Song Qingxiao stared at me for a long time, with tears welling in her eyes. My voice turned cold. You shouldn't touch Hui Yan. Song Qingxiao blinked her eyes. I could tell you had returned just by the way you looked at him. He sighed. Sis, all these rights and wrongs are such a mess. You've finally decided to meet with me. Are you planning to send me to a sanatorium? Or to the police station? There was a faint sound of police sirens coming from downstairs. Song Qingxiao raised her eyebrows knowingly. He casually glanced at the sky and smiled at me with a relaxed expression. The last time. You remembered Hui Yan for a lifetime. How long will my sister remember me? I suddenly realized what he was about to do. I rushed forward, but I only managed to touch the hem of his clothes. Song Qingxiao leaned back and fell over the railing. Song Qingxiao isn't dead. In the years that followed, he fell into a deep coma. The doctor said that maybe he would never wake up again. There's a high chance of losing memory upon waking up. As time drew closer to the date of Hui Yan's death, I became extremely cautious. If we can be together, I'll never let him go out alone. As those days approached, Hui Yan and I both took time off and stayed at home. Hui Yan really enjoys having me glued to him every day. After repeated interactions, Hui Yan no longer felt awkward or uncomfortable about physical contact at all. When I woke up in the morning, I vaguely realized that no one was beside me. Realizing what day it was, I immediately snapped out of my daze. I rushed to the restaurant in a hurry. Hui Yan was drinking coffee and reading a magazine. Seeing my expression, he was taken aback. What's wrong? I snuggled into his arms, finding a comfortable position. The heart was still beating rapidly. Once after another, Hui Yan kissed the back of my head. He continued to flip through the magazine. At halfway through, it stopped. Hui Yan gently shook me. Recently on vacation. How about going skiing in Switzerland? The word skiing makes my scalp tingle. Without time to think, I blurted out, don't. Hui Yan lowered his long eyelashes and said in a casual tone, as if discussing what to have for breakfast. That's how I died. Right. My heart stopped for a moment. How did Hui Yan know? He held my hand entirely in his own, explaining, you're always too worried about my safety. Sometimes you have nightmares. You cry. And you scold me, saying that I left you alone. You never believed in ghosts or deities before. But now, you go to every temple to offer prayers and make wishes. And companies too. You handle Zhang's affairs with great ease. You also know Heng very well. And even Assistant Qi quite well. Hui Yan held my hand tighter. It has a slightly sour taste. I hesitated for a moment, but decided to tell the truth anyway. Rebirth is a rather absurd concept. Hui Yan listened very carefully. When I think about avalanches, my breathing becomes painfully sharp. I said, I thought you were fine. After all, it was just snow. I didn't realize you weren't speaking because your mouth was full of blood. The last thing you heard was that I'll hate you forever. You're still smiling at me. You should scold me. Why do you still smile at me? I couldn't stop crying. Hui Yan gently patted my back to see. Comfort me, he said in a gentle voice. You said forever. I know you'll remember me for a long time. I cried so much that I wet the front of Hui Yan's clothes. I grabbed his clothes and wiped my tears. In any case, you're not allowed to go anywhere. Say goodbye to skiing for life. Hui Yan simply agreed. Okay. He hesitated for a moment before saying, I've had some dreams lately. In your dreams, you can't see me, and I can't leave this house either. You always seem so sad whenever you come back. All I can do is stay by your side, holding you while you sleep. You don't come back very often. So someone always comes to clean the place. I stood there with my mouth half open, unable to speak. So in my past life, when I returned to the house in Haiqing, I felt Hui Yan's body temperature and breath in a half-asleep state. I prayed to gods and Buddhas everywhere in the world. I never knew that my lover's soul was trapped in our very own home. I only go back to my house in Haiqing a few times a year at most. Is he just going to keep waiting, Li? This. Hui Yan saw that I was crying so hard I could hardly breathe and became slightly panicked. It's just a dream. Just a dream. I'm fine now. Please don't be sad. In Hui Yan's eyes, there was deep sorrow. He asked, How did you get back? Could it also be? I shook my head. No. 10 years have passed, and I miss you more and more. I've done a lot of charity work in your name, and I've prayed for you. At that time, there was a snow disaster in the Tibetan capital. I happened to be nearby, so I managed to organize people to deliver a lot of supplies there. Passed by an ancient temple along the way. There's an old monk in the temple. I've left him some supplies. He said I have few close relatives but am deeply obsessed with certain things. My destined partner is the same Wa. Why? He said we're destined to be entangled throughout eternity. I think it would be nice if I could meet you again in my next life. I offer incense, and when I open my eyes again, I'll be back. Hui Yan heard about their endless entanglements and couldn't help but smile. I was constantly worried, checking Hui Yan's vital signs from time to time. Hui Yan was very cooperative, allowing me to use him as a pendant on me, until after midnight. My worried heart finally settled down. In the end, heaven is merciful. I closed my eyes with great devotion. Thank the unknown fate for giving me another chance. When I opened my eyes, I saw Hui Yan looking at me with a smile. He said, I love you. The last sound of my reply, I love you too, was lost in the kiss.